and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here. I'm saying it twice because I am passionate about this history, and we're gonna get this action-packed talk started because I definitely want to open up some time for questions. I've had many, many questions already since we've been here this afternoon. So, museum, Louisiana Orphan Train Museum, Jill told y'all where it is. We're located in Opelousas. A few quick things about the museum. It's beautiful. It's in a circa 1900 Union Pacific Freight Depot building. It's actually one of the last Union Pacific Freight Depot buildings left in the state of Louisiana. So it's circa 1900. We coddle it, we baby it, and we take care of our building because you have to. It's an old building. What's unique about it is we restored it in 2008. So we opened in 2009, and we're going to be celebrating our 16th year this October coming. And we actually have a big open house on October the 11th. It's free and open to the public. We do that annually to encourage anyone to come see us. We want to see you all the time, but we also do a big open house. Typically, these buildings are bulldozed, by the way. They're not even kept by the railroads. They just bulldoze them and get them out of the way. So how great that we have it and we're in there. It's beautiful. Sam Hamilton Architects were the ones who initiated the project of restoring the building, and they completed it in 2008. Sam Hamilton sadly did not see the finished product, but the other architects did. It's 100% cypress with only pine flooring, and the pine flooring is there because that's how the original building was. So we run the museum. We're a nonprofit, all volunteer staff, a lot of passionate people like me connected. So many of our volunteers are actually directly descended from orphan train riders, just like I am. It's a feather in our cap, and we want to spread the word. Very proud of the museum, and I love bragging about this 100% volunteer museum that is still open for 16 years. I mean, it takes a lot of energy and time. So we have a society. Anyone's welcome to join our society. It does help us, and this is how we run it. We have a lot of members, 300 plus. We have a beautiful, wonderful board of the museum. We meet monthly, just like y'all, I'm sure y'all share with my thoughts about how important meetings are, sitting down with people and talking to them. I mean, that's really how things get done. And I think that is 90% success of the museum, that we meet monthly with our board. So this is the LaVue Village, that's where we're located. Jill told y'all it's at the junction kind of 190 and I-49. We're 20 minutes north of Lafayette. We get visitors not just from the local community, but from other states, from France, South America. We get them from all over. We had a family plan their Florida vacation route to come from Colorado to stop at our museum to make it to Florida. We have return visitors who come back for more. So I'm going to jump into the history. This is our society crest. Quick history of the orphan train, because if you don't know the history, it won't make any sense. So what had happened basically in New York City, when you talk about orphan train, you want to put yourself into the mid-1800s. And there was basically an overpopulation of people in New York City. So you have all these immigrants coming in every day and overpopulating New York City. Very fragile time for children. Too many people, nowhere to live. Too many people, can't get a job. And lots of diseases and epidemics. So thousands of children became homeless. The parents, we have so many stories. They wanted to take care of their child, but they couldn't. My grandmother was left at the New York Foundling Hospital in New York when she was 3 weeks old by her mother. So there's one of the thousands of examples of how did they end up being an orphan? Obviously, she couldn't take care of this 3-week-old in 1903, so she left her at a hospital. I'm going to jump right on into our 1-minute teaser that we're going to show you. We have a mini documentary that we show at the museum, and but we're going to give you a 1-minute teaser. During this time in New York City, there was a population explosion.
It soon became apparent that there was so much overcrowding that something had to be done.
They'd have babies and couldn't feed them or couldn't take care of them, and they just throw them away.
Basically, what happened was extreme poverty set in, and sadly, it was the children who suffered the most.
Hundreds of children came to Louisiana from New York. My father was one of them. As a matter of fact, as long as he lived, I did not know he was an orphan.
She never talked about it. She just was so embarrassed and ashamed to be an orphan, to have come about the way that she did, to have been abandoned.
So there was, what had happened was, I'll get right over to this. This is the lady right here who started it all. This is Sister Mary Irene Fitzgibbon. So this ties into the origination of the orphan train movement. Basically what happened is this young New York Sister of Charity sister had a vision of starting an orphanage in New York, so she founded the New York Foundling Asylum. It became an orphanage at first. And within 1 month, there were so many children brought to it in 1869 that they had to keep moving in New York City. And eventually she builds this huge complex with the New York Foundling Hospital in it. So she has all of these thousands of children. So she wanted to place them out on orphan trains. And what she did was she used the Catholic Church to do it. She would correspond with parish priests and bishops across America. So I am going to ask my fellow board member, James Stoke, come on up here, and he's going to help me up here talking about how the children were placed. We estimate that there was about 2,000 placed in Louisiana, but actually through all the 30+ years of research that we're doing, I believe that number is much higher.
Okay, thank you, Martha. As Martha said, we're all volunteers. Most of us have some type of a connection with the children who came down on the orphan trains. In my case, it was a little bit unusual. I had an aunt and an uncle who were on the trains, and I knew absolutely nothing about this movement until I was an adult and married, because the kids, as they were growing up, they kept it to themselves. The foster parents just didn't talk about it, and so forth. So I think we have a slide of Father John Ingbrink. He was a parish priest in Opelousas. He and several priests all over the state of Louisiana made a trip up to the Foundling Hospital. They were so impressed, they came back down, talked to their congregations with the intent of signing up prospective foster parents. People sometimes believe because we're located in Opelousas that all the children came to Opelousas. No, they came throughout the state, as far south as New Orleans, all the way up to Marksville and so forth. But we just happen to be in Opelousas, so sometimes we talk a little bit more about that. But he was very instrumental in bringing the orphans in the early 1900s to Opelousas.
So there you have all of these children that she puts on the orphan train, and it's prearranged. They all came with clothing with tags and numbers on them. Emily Kingsley, my grandmother, came. She actually went to Terrebonne Parish, and it looks like she got off the train in 1907. So one thing we need to educate people on, because it's an untold history, so many people don't know about it, is that this was, in my opinion, nothing short of miraculous, how these children, first of all, that they even survived, that they lived to be able to be placed out. And my grandmother went to a Bergeron family in Bayou Black, and she was number 14 on her dress. And we have a lot of original clothing at the museum that the families had donated to us. We have a lot of artifacts. And when you come to our museum, you'll see these digitized, redone pictures of these orphans. We have over 200, but our list is 433 and counting. You know, not every family has a picture of the orphan. So you have these children being placed out all across Louisiana, and then they integrate into their communities. So our mission is to be their voices. We're here to pass the history on. One thing I need to make sure, a lot of people have read some books out there and different things like that, but important to know, everybody thinks the children were all adopted, and that's actually not at all. They were given over as indentured servants, and that's how it was done during that time. And that was in the 100% benefit and protection of the child being indentured to the family, because the Sisters of Charity, by doing that, allowed them to be able, if they needed to go back and take that child out of that situation. So it was, you know, we get a lot of questions and, well, they weren't adopted, they were indentured. Yes, they were. Now, if the family chose to adopt them, they could so, but they were indentured first. Another thing we point out, we do promote the French language. It's so historically important to the history of our state. And you can imagine these children coming from New York City on this 3 to 5 day train ride. Typically, they would take the Illinois Central down from New York to the Union Terminal in New Orleans. By the way, a lot of them went to New Orleans. A lot of children went to New Orleans, but that is where they would get, and then they would take the Southern Pacific Rail to go to what my kids call the teeny tiny towns of Louisiana. And so, you know, they get to Louisiana and they go to Lauraville, you know, or wherever in Iberia Parish, and what is everybody speaking? They're speaking French. These children weren't speaking French, so I would call it a true culture shock. Yeah. So, you know, we get a lot of questions about good, bad stories, but what we do at the museum is it's an oral history. Our mission solely is to pass this history on, and we know there's a lot of people out there who don't know about it, and that's why we're here today. And I have to tell y'all, my grandmother actually raised me for 7 years in New Orleans, in Algiers Point. And ironically, she lived in a shotgun house, and it was on Opelousas Avenue. So now I'm in Opelousas when I'm off. I am a nurse, but when I'm off, I'm there trying to do all this with a very passionate group of people. So we're gonna open up the floor for questions. And if not, I have plenty of other things I can say. Yes, sir?
What was the range of the ages of the children and sort of what was the average age?
So what was the range of the age of the children and what was the average age? So I will tell you, typically from the New York foundling, they were anywhere from baby to 4. There were babies sent. We have Marie D'Orbon's clothes in the museum. So Sister Irene, they were young. I believe my grandmother was 4 when she got off the train. We do know of a few that came who were a little older, of an 8-year-old girl, Annie Hidalgo. Her family believes she was put on the train to help take care of the little ones, but she was placed in St. Landry Parish. Yes. Yes, Ms. Lightfoot?
How did you determine which child went to which family?
So that would have been first primarily through the priest, the local priest, who was maybe on his horseback or under the oak tree pleading to the community There are these children who need to be placed. One thing about the New York family, you went in, you came out Catholic. So, and a requirement for raising the child was to be Catholic. That's how she did it. Yes.
What was the ratio of boys to girls, and were these children primarily the children of immigrants?
So to answer yes, they were primarily children of immigrants as far as what our research shows. And the ratio of boys to girl from the New York family, it really wasn't, it was balanced. A lot of times it also depended on the foster family, what they wanted. We actually have an order form up in the museum of a family in St. Landry Parish requesting a boy with black eyes and black hair. So I think they were trying to get a boy to look like them, but what they got was an age preferred 3, but what they got was a blonde, blue-eyed John Brown who was 5. So, yeah. You have anything to say about this?
Well, one thing we get all the time is people come to the museum and they will say they read a book or they saw a movie or a television program. Most of the time they're talking about a companion movement, the Children's Aid Society, Reverend Lauren Brace, and those kids were a lot older, and it was not prearranged. They would literally show up at a railroad station, and people would show up, and they was picking and choosing. And most of the time, they were looking for extra help in the fields and so forth. Our kids were mostly, as Martha said, 4 years old, 3 years old. My aunt and uncle were both 4 years old. And you say, well, how can that be? Well, they were only 4 months apart in age. They were from different biological families. And we all have stories. The past story with my family was my grandmother and grandfather heard Father John Ingbrink give his sales pitches, I call it. They had no children of their own at the time. They went home, went back and forth, boy, girl, let's take one of each, which they did. And then you know what happened about a year later? My dad is born, 6 others, so they had 7 of their own plus the 2 orphans. But our movement was all pre-arranged, okay? It was all set up ahead of time. So when people would arrive at the train depot, they knew which child they were going to get. Didn't always work out that way. Sometimes things would happen.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing I forgot to mention as well, and I did tell some of the people I was talking to before, we are only one of 2 orphan train museums in America. There's only one other one, and it's in Concordia, Kansas. So what a feather in the cap for the state of Louisiana. Because I actually went to the other museum last May. I had to go check that out. And you know, it's all about, they're doing a great job, but they are dedicated more to that Western movement of the orphans, where we are Louisiana. We want everybody to know about these orphans that came to Louisiana. James mentioned about the train station. So I never not tell this story of little George and Agnes. There was actually, this is just one of the many stories we tell, but there was a couple who wanted a boy and a girl, which was actually very unusual. Typically they just took one, but in James' family they took 2. But anyway, so they sent George and his sister Agnes Thompson down to Opelousas, and when they got to the train station in Opelousas, there was a George Murphy. Somehow the 2 Georges got mixed up. Well, Agnes was trying to tell the foster parents, this is not my brother, but you know, they didn't understand her because they spoke French. So they got separated at the train station in 1907, and they didn't meet each other again not till 1969. And they were 15 miles apart. So yes, it's a relatable subject. When the son of George got them together, and it was all off of a cuff conversation. The son of George was an accountant, and a client came in and saw a railroad spike on his desk and started talking about her aunt who came on the orphan train. And he was like, who's your aunt? And it was his dad's sister. So he got them together, and the first thing Agnes said to George was, "Hello, George." And George said, "Hello, Agnes." It was like they had had coffee together the day before. So, you know, bittersweet story. It's a happy story. We tell it as happy because it is happy. They met each other again. Did we have some children that didn't work out? Of course, yes. You know, there's going to be some of those, but it was a beautiful, warm, welcoming French culture here in Louisiana. They were waiting there with their arms up for the children. In fact, in New Orleans, the demand was so high, they didn't have enough to give them. So it's a 30-plus year research we're doing. This is our 88-year-old historian, Flo, and her
98.
Oh, 98. I stand corrected. I knew that. Anyway, she, you know, her with many, many other people. This vision goes back to 1990. And here we are today still living it, which is beautiful to me. Yes.
What were the expectations of children who were 4 or 5 and younger when they were put out with families?
So the expectations were the indenture papers, which we have some in the museum that are on display. My grandmother's is actually on display. The expectations of the foster parents by the indenture paper was to, you know, raise them, clothe them, send them to school, pretty much as you would your own child. And that was it. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, here.
Do you know if the family names were kept, or did they keep the names that they were adopted?
So, good question. Some of the foster parents actually left the orphan with their New York name, I call it. And some of them just gave them the name of their family. It's very varied. My grandmother came as Emily Kingsley. She went to the Bergerons. So she would sign her name sometimes, Emily K. Bergeron. She was not legally adopted. So.
I wanted to ask, expand on the question about the indentured
Yes.
requirements. You mentioned what the foster parents,
Yes.
what was expected of the children as they got older? When would they know when they reached a certain age, or the requirements for them?
The requirement for the child, I believe it was at any time, unless they were legally adopted, up till the age of 16, they could be taken out of there by the sisters. They were just raised with the family if there were other children. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, Miss Flo, you know, the unique thing about her is her father-in-law came on the orphan train. And I would definitely say she had a unique relationship. A lot of these orphans never talked about it. It was very hushed up, very stigmatized. My grandmother was not proud to be an orphan. Who would be proud of that? She was an abandoned child in 1903. But, and it carried on to that next generation. And now you have people like Martha. I'm the granddaughter. We're a little bit more diggers than that other generation. And so now those generations are inquiring about this history that was, you know, we all know history gets lost at the kitchen table. The New York Foundling is still in existence, by the way. It's open in New York City. I've been there twice. It's more of a social networking, you know, services. They're in all 7 boroughs. And of course now, you never want the child away from the mother. You want them together. And they work on that. They have a crisis nursery there, and they're doing great things. But, you know, we want the people of Louisiana to know about these people, you know, and just to know about the history. We're on a little bit of a movement to get it into the school curriculum with the help of some retired teachers. So always pushing the museum, always moving it forward. And if you know anyone out there who might have known someone or had a family member who might be connected to this history, we're there. We want to talk to them because we want anybody who came to Louisiana Orphan Train to be on our wall to pass this history on to the younger generation. I will say also, that was the original New York Foundling Hospital. So Sister Irene finds this little brownstone building in Greenwich Village of October of 1869 with 2 other sisters. Their first meal was off a newspaper on the floor, and they had potato sacks to sleep on. And they're hoping to have it ready by the beginning of the year, and that night there was a baby left at the door in a basket. The next day some more children were left, and within a month they were actually overwhelmed. They had almost 50 children. They couldn't take care of them in there, so they had to find a much bigger building in Washington Square, and within a year she has 1,000 children. Following year she doubles it, and then it just exploded. So there's many people like me out there in the public who came and descended from these orphan train riders, but the thing is there's a lot of people who don't even know they did. So we're here to pass the word on. This is St. Vincent de Ferrer Church in New York City, where many of them were baptized. This is the original Opelousas train depot. The building we're in was the freight depot that was located right next to the main depot. That main depot doesn't exist anymore. This is a sneak peek of the beautiful wall-sized mural we have in our museum, painted by Robert Dafford. It is titled An Historical Moment in Time. The orphan train arrives to Opelousas in 1907.
Okay, well, thank everybody.
Yep. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with James Doggett, and I appreciate y'all listening, and we're here if you have any other questions. Thank you.